Hi there, it is Thursday, March the 19th, 2026, and this is Washington in Focus Daily. I'm Carleen Johnson, the Center Square's state government reporter, and in today's episode, further concerns from a Washington state senator to passage of the new income tax. Now, still not signed by Governor Bob Ferguson. We're waiting on that, but Senator Jeff Wilson of Longview shares some of his thoughts not only about passage of the income tax, which he believes was really rushed through, um, but about the whole session. He says, in his opinion, we've bottomed out in Olympia and it really can't get any worse. So that wasn't great news, but having covered the entire session, which ended a week ago today, I can tell you it was, there was a lot of toxicity in that building. Then have you heard about what Thurston County is doing? The county commission this week passed an ordinance that says if you want to put your home up for sale in unincorporated Thurston County, you first have to pay to bring in a guy to do an energy assessment of your home and give you a score. So say you don't have energy efficient appliances, you don't have enough insulation, maybe your crawl space doesn't look great. It is likely to mean you would get a low score. So builders, realtors are furious about this, as are some state lawmakers. And apparently Thurston County isn't alone. I found out that Olympia, Tumwater, also about to take this up. In fact, Olympia is early next week. So I spoke with the Olympia master builders about the ordinance, also spoke with Representative Dan Griffey. Part of his district includes Thurston County, and he's very concerned about impacts from this ordinance. Some questions about whether or not it's even legal, whether the county has the authority to do this. And then how about those gas prices? 5.14 a gallon today. That's our average in the state of Washington. Feel bad for me. I had to fill my car up. If you pay diesel and are driving a truck, you don't feel sorry for me at all. We're now second highest in the nation behind our friends in California. The Iran war, partly to blame, but the Climate Commitment Act and other climate goals in Washington drive up gas taxes in our state. And that is in large part why we're paying such exorbitant prices for gas. And I ventured out today to a few gas stations near me, talked to some people who were emptying their piggy banks to fill up their gas tanks. And so we're going to get into that. All right, so let's get started. It has been a week today since the end of the 2026 legislative session. The big focus, lots of the media attention was on Senate Bill 6346, the income tax bill, yet to be signed by the governor. No reason to suspect that he's not going to sign this, but it was not on his bill signing calendar today, although a very controversial bill, another very controversial bill he did sign today. He signed the bill to that says that ICE officers, immigration and customs enforcement officers in Washington are not allowed to cover their faces. It's gotten a lot of attention, of course, on the national stage. A lot of these officers have been doxxed, their own families, followed home and threatened. So that's why they cover their faces. Apparently, here in the state of Washington, they're not supposed to do that. Going to be curious to see if that holds up because, of course, the federal administration says we control our federal officers and how they operate across the country, and you, Washington, are not allowed to say whether or not their faces are covered. So, lots to get into, but I want to share with you what Senator Jeff Wilson of Longview told me about passage of the income tax. He said this was just one part of what he called a really bad session. He did get passage of a bill that he's pushed for quite some time on kit homes as part of the solution for our housing shortage. These are smaller homes where back in the Sears and Roebuck calendar days, or catalog days, I should say, you could literally get in there and you could order a home and they ship you. There'd be pallets that show up outside your house. And this is, do it yourself instructions on how to build a smaller home. I think it has to be 800 square feet or smaller. Plenty big for, a couple, especially an older couple that, kids are out of the house, plenty big enough to live in. So the kit homes are coming back as part of the housing solution in the state of Washington. Um, but he in these reflections, I want to share with you what he thought about the income tax, and then really what he said was a nasty year. He said he thought the 2025 session and how things were run by majority Democrats were as bad as it can get. He said this year got even worse. Here's part of that conversation with Senator Wilson.
I was never in any hurry to really exit this session. In fact, I kind of would have wished we had more time and this was at least a long session. Who knows? Maybe it was strategically planned by interested parties to do it this way, where you don't have a lot of time. I don't think we fully vetted the importance and on a transparent basis with our bosses, and that's the people that we serve. You saw record-breaking attendance for people that took the time to weigh in, over 100,000 on the income tax bill alone. And yet with this in a matter of few days and hours, we made decisions that affect history going forward. But ultimately, we're not in a good place. This was not a good year. I really believe that last session in 2025, I kind of thought that, as with most overwhelming issues, you would bottom out. We didn't bottom out. This year, we hit the bottom. There's no lower place to go forward on our economic responsibility to you and everybody else in this state. It's got a potential for it could just get worse from here on out. I want to tout the good things, but it's overshadowed and drowned out by the process, by design, the way it handled, and here we are stuck with things that we know are headed to the courts, and I think we knew better.
So again, we're still waiting to find out when Governor Ferguson is going to sign the income tax bill and whether or not any parts of that will be vetoed. And of course, next steps are a legal challenge. Where that's going to come from, we don't. We've heard lots of rumors, but and speculations out there as to who's going to be behind that, and then whether or not there will, in tandem, or maybe next year, be a citizen initiative campaigned in an effort to roll back the recently passed income tax. All right, now let's get into what Thurston County did this week. They signed off on an ordinance that will require people trying to sell their home in unincorporated parts of the county to obtain a home energy score, an HES, before you can list that property for sale. So the intent of this is to make people, or I suppose inspire people, to put in more energy efficient appliances, to do some things to get down their energy costs, to make the house more climate friendly before you put it on the market. And this is part of Thurston County's climate mitigation plan, which was passed a number of years ago. So this is forwarding that. It doesn't require homeowners to make these upgrades and doesn't change your property tax assessment in any way. But you can imagine when you're ready to list your home for sale, first of all, you got to have to pay the guy to come out and do the home energy assessment and literally give you a score. Okay, whoop, you didn't change out your natural gas, water heater. You've got some old appliances in the kitchen. Your insulation looks a little outdated, or maybe you don't have any. So you're getting a 3 out of 10. Might certainly deter some prospective buyers looking at that home. And it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's about a year out, I should say, before it would go into effect. And it's not even clear if they can do this legally. So I want you to hear from a couple of people who testified at the Thurston County Commissioners meeting ahead of the final vote on Tuesday. First, this gentleman representing the real estate sector was very opposed to the ordinance.
I can assure you that nobody on the Board of County Commissioners has any actual real estate experience. You may have bought a home, but you know nothing about the process of the selling of a home. So before you can sell it, you need to spend $1,000. Now, the reason I said 1,000, let's add up. Time of transfer, the paperwork alone is $300 and some dollars. The recording fees, another $300. You need to be representing the people that are here, the people that are owning property. This particular provision is not for property owners. It is for property buyers. But the idea of demanding people to spend money upfront when they're not sellers, they're buyers, you're demanding sellers to actually spend money first is wrong. You need to give it some thought, get some experience in from the people that are in the business of helping people get housing.
And he was followed by a woman who was very much in support of the ordinance and said this is part of what we need to do to make sure we're meeting these climate goals. And she, in fact, painted a very gloomy picture of the future if we don't act now.
This ordinance asks the real estate industry to do their part, a very, very small part. I was very dismayed at the hearing to hear a number of realtors start their testimony with, "I believe in climate change, but," and then go on to claim that they needed nothing to change for them. I usually try to avoid being grim about climate change, but apparently it is necessary to point out that scientists currently state that the trajectory we are on will lead to an incompatibility with life on this planet, that anyone born this month will not live out their natural lifespan. With that perspective, I think asking homeowners to have a 2-hour energy audit done on their home is not a huge burden on either homeowners or real estate agents. I think existing data from other cities demonstrates it does not delay listing or sales. It also allows the buyer to take a bigger loan to get the work done if that is their choice. It is time to pass this common sense ordinance.
And this morning, I had a chance to speak with Jesse Simmons. He's the Government Affairs Director for Olympia Master Builders, and they are not at all pleased with the ordinance. He told me there are real questions, in their opinion, as to whether or not Thurston County even has the authority to implement a requirement like this. He said Washington law already governs seller disclosures, and this ordinance, he believes, goes well beyond that framework.
It's messaged as a informational program. And so that is the issue I am having with it. So the ordinance itself actually mandates that you have this listing, this score listed on your, before you list a house. So on your MLS listing, just anywhere that you decide to list your house, it's required now to have this energy score. Well, what that entails is that the homeowner's got to go pay for an inspection, got to pay. So it's out of pocket. It's going to cost money, and that's kind of the danger we see, is because while yes, there are some opportunities for subsidies and support in it, depending on your income level, like many programs, the income threshold is what what causes kind of a cutoff. So those people, there's still people above that threshold that are living paycheck to paycheck. And they can't necessarily afford, they talk like a couple $100 is maybe a minimal cost, but for those people, it's not. And me personally, even we would absolutely move out of our house and buy our forever home if we could currently afford it. But the way the market is right now, we're just like many others at that income, right at that income level where we just don't have the resources to do that right now. As most people would either have to go ahead and make those improvements if they want, but then you're spending $40,000 to, you're getting a heat pump, you're doing your insulation in the attic and under, in the crawl space, and all of that is, it's not cheap. It costs thousands of dollars, and so we're looking $35,000 to $40,000 to bring your home up to par, to like comparable to some of the newer housing. And so yeah, it's really a detriment to the older housing, and most people I don't think are going to actually comply with that. What they're going to do is make concessions, so they're going to end up in a worse spot when they move. If they end up selling their house, they're not going to have the full benefit of making that income on their home so that they can improve their situation where they, wherever they move to.
I also got up with Representative Dan Griffey. He's a Republican from Mason County, about the ordinance. His district also includes parts of Thurston County. And he told me, in his opinion, Thurston County is the worst as far as burdensome regulations go.
But Washington State was the first in the union to make sure that carbon monoxide detectors and smoke detectors were a mandatory pre-sale thing that they do. I can imagine that Thurston County would want to do such a thing, but we can't have any more chilling effects on home sales and home prices. At the time that the home is constructed, the county has the right to establish permitting requirements. Those permitting requirements are there, and the designer and developer, the one that's going to build it, know that going into it. But to turn everything on its head is only going to have a chilling effect on housing affordability, housing availability, and those that, once again, those that have the least wherewithal to absorb such impacts are going to have to bear that burden. The buyer has the right to make an informed decision. The buyer has the ability to hire somebody to look at the house and see if the house is a condition that they're willing to accept. They're also able to negotiate whether or not the seller is going to fix any of those issues. It is a buyer beware state, and it should be that way. In the free market, we should have the ability to evaluate those purchases we're going to make and make up our own minds. Throwing the county in the middle of it is, once again, Thurston County chilling land development, and they've had a long history of that. I get along with all of the counties that I represent, but Thurston County happens to be the worst when it comes to land development regulations and just going after one's private property.
I'll share that I did reach out to the Thurston County commissioners asking for comment ahead of this article and this podcast. I'm writing the article that's going to be up on the site later today. I received no response. There was one member of the commission that abstained from the vote. It was Commissioner Wayne Fournier, Fournier. I may be pronouncing that wrong. Wayne, forgive me if I am. He cited concerns about, potential legal challenges with this. And he said, quote, being the first is cool, but being the first is dangerous. If there wasn't so much public outcry, I might be more inclined to roll the dice. So we're going to see what happens. Again, I think there's going to be plenty of pushback. This only just passed on Tuesday. And if you follow social media, you see it's been filled with plenty of opposition and concerns about the direction they're going. And again, Olympia and Tumwater appear to be right behind. And now, in keeping with our theme of pain for today's Washington in Focus daily podcast, have you filled up your gas tank this week? Probably didn't have enough money to fill it up, maybe. $20 won't even get you 4 gallons of gas in the state of Washington right now, I'm afraid. Washington drivers are paying nearly $1 more per gallon of gas than we were just 1 year ago. You got a 15-gallon tank, you fill that up 2-3 times a week. That's real cash money. So the Iran war is sending prices surging, of course, across the country, but Washington drivers are paying far more in state taxes for gasoline, mostly because of the Climate Commitment Act. The statewide average for a gallon of regular today, according to AAA Washington, is $5.14. Now, if you go to some other parts of the state, like northern King County, you're going to pay more. The poor people that live in the San Juan Islands, who are beholden to gas being, taken by ferry up to the islands, I think I checked this morning, was $5.80 something. So those poor folks are really feeling it. California, $5.61 a gallon today, according to AAA. So we're paying a little bit less than them. National average today is $3.88. So we're paying a heck of a lot more for gas. And 90 cents more just than a month ago in the state of Washington. So I know it's hitting all of us. I went out this morning to check on drivers emptying their wallets to fill their tanks. at gas stations in Federal Way. And it kind of broke my heart to talk to this first woman here. You'll see.
It's a struggle because my fiance only has a set income where he doesn't work anymore because he had to have a double lung surgery. Then he just got out of knee surgery. Well, it makes me angry, you know? I mean, we're seriously struggling, like, and we couldn't be. Not as bad, you know what I mean? Like, we only have so much money and we shouldn't have to spend it all on gas just to get around. I don't drive my car that often because I can't afford the gas prices until they go back down, if they do. So it's just frustrating.
The gas prices, I mean, it adds up. You know, it's all the different vehicles that my wife and I drive and you know, along with food and, you know, Washington taxes are an extra $2 on top of the national average, but I don't know, I guess you got to pay for potholes, get your potholes fixed.
And our poor Washington truck drivers or, you know, multi-state truck drivers passing through Washington who have to fill up, they are really feeling the pain. Diesel averages $6.21 a gallon. That's up $1.41 in the last month. And just 1 year ago, it was $4.39 a gallon for diesel. Now, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, I checked the page today, they project that nationwide gas prices are going to remain relatively high through the remainder of 2026. They, again, project dropping about 16 cents a gallon in 2027. All that's subject to change depending upon the Strait of Hormuz and what's happening with the Iran conflict. So there's a lot of variables there, but that's the latest projection today from the EIA. But again, Washington prices 126 higher today than the national average per gallon. So good luck with that. Yeah, happy trails. Maybe hunker down. I appreciate you watching today's episode of Washington in Focus for this March the 9th. It is the 19th of 2026. The year's flying by already. Almost time to hit spring, and that'll be nice to look forward to. Thanks for watching.